2001, God has made a decision about you, and it is final. For years, you have carried something you could not explain, a sense that you were built for a weight the world keeps telling you does not exist. You felt it as a child when your mind moved faster than anyone around you could follow. You feel it now as an ache that no amount of rest can touch, a knowing that somewhere between who you were and who you are, something essential was locked away. You were right. Something was locked away, not by accident, not by the enemy, by God himself. He placed a power inside you before you drew your first breath, a power so precisely engineered for your spirit, your scars, your exact journey, that no one who has ever lived has carried its equal. And here is what changed. God looked at your faithfulness in the hidden years, the prayers no one heard, the obedience no one applauded, the staying when everything begged you to leave, and he made a decision. The lock comes off. Not tomorrow, not soon, now. This message is the unveiling, and I need to tell you something before we go any further. This is not a casual word of encouragement you stumbled across by chance. There is a reason your spirit led you here at this exact hour, in this exact season of your life. A hand higher than yours guided you to this place. And what is about to unfold is a message that was prepared specifically for the one who is listening right now. So I am asking you to stay with me. Stay until the very end of this journey, because 3 things are going to happen before we are done. First, you are going to understand why you have felt different your entire life, why the weight never made sense, why the world kept reflecting back a version of you that did not match what you knew in your bones. Second, you are going to receive a specific practice, a framework with a name that you can use starting tonight to begin activating what has been dormant inside you. And third, I am going to reveal the full nature of the power God hid in you and why he chose this exact moment in history to release it. You are not ready for what you are about to discover about yourself, but that is exactly why God chose you to carry it. Stay. Now, before I show you the power, I need to show you the evidence that it is already stirring. Because here is what most people miss. They think the activation is something that happens in the future. They think they are waiting for God to flip a switch. But the truth is, the switch has already been touched. The power is already moving. And your body, your emotions, your dreams, your daily life, they have been sending you signals for weeks, maybe months, that something enormous is shifting beneath the surface. You just did not have the language for it. Until now. There are 7 signs that this unprecedented power is awakening inside you right now. And what I have noticed is that the more of these signs you recognize in your own life, the closer your power is to the surface. So, listen carefully. Not with your analytical mind. Listen with the part of you that already knows. The first sign is a tiredness that does not make sense. I am not talking about the tiredness that comes from a long day at work or a bad night of sleep. I am talking about a fatigue that lives in your bones, a heaviness that settles into your body no matter how much you rest. You wake up and the weight is already there. You go to bed and it follows you into your dreams. And you have been to the doctor or you have thought about going because this does not feel normal. It does not feel like something rest can fix. And you are right. Rest cannot fix it, because this is not physical exhaustion. This is your body trying to process a power it was never designed to carry at the frequency it has been operating on. Think about it this way. Imagine plugging a machine designed for high voltage into a low voltage outlet. The machine does not break, it just runs heavy, runs hot, runs slow. That is what has been happening to you. Your spirit was designed for a frequency of power that your current operating system cannot sustain. And the tiredness you feel is the friction between what you are and what you have been forced to function as. So the next time you feel that bone-deep exhaustion and you cannot explain it, I want you to hear this. That is not weakness. That is not burnout. That is your body telling you that the power inside you is too big for the container it has been squeezed into, and the container is about to change. The second sign is that your tolerance has shifted. Things you used to be able to sit through, you cannot sit through anymore. Conversations that used to feel normal now feel like they are draining the life out of you. People you used to spend hours with now leave you feeling empty after 15 minutes. And it is not that you have become arrogant or antisocial. It is that something inside you has changed its frequency. And when your frequency shifts, everything that does not match it starts to feel like static. You may have noticed it in small ways. A group chat that you used to enjoy now feels meaningless. A television show that used to relax you now feels like noise. A routine that used to comfort you now feels like a cage. And you have been wondering if something is wrong with you, if you are becoming cold, if you are losing connection. Nothing is wrong with you. Your power is rejecting frequencies that do not match its signature. It is not that you are pulling away from people. It is that your spirit is recalibrating, and the old frequencies cannot travel where you are going. This is not loss. This is alignment. The third sign is that your dreams have changed. Not the dreams you have for your future, although those may be shifting too. I am talking about the dreams you have at night. They have become more vivid, more detailed, more real than your waking life sometimes. You are dreaming about places you have never been, but somehow recognize. You are dreaming about conversations with people whose faces you cannot see, but whose voices feel ancient and familiar. You are waking up with emotions that do not belong to anything that happened yesterday. Feelings of urgency, or peace, or grief, or power that seem to come from somewhere deeper than your daily experience. This is not random brain activity. This is your subconscious rehearsing. It is practicing for the version of you that wields this power fully. Your waking mind is still catching up to what your sleeping mind already knows. And the dreams are getting louder because the activation is getting closer. Now, these three signs alone would be enough to confirm that something real is happening inside you. But what I am about to show you next makes it undeniable. And if you have recognized even one of these first three signs, I need you to lean in closer, because the next four go deeper. The fourth sign is that numbers and patterns keep finding you. You see the same numbers on clocks, on receipts, on license plates: 11, 11, 3, 33, 4, 44. And at first you dismissed it. Coincidence, pattern recognition, the brain seeing what it wants to see. But then it kept happening, and it started happening at moments that felt too specific to be random. You would be in the middle of a prayer, or a moment of doubt, or a decision that felt impossible, and there it was again, the same number, the same sequence, as if something was tapping you on the shoulder and saying, "I am here, I see you, keep going." These are not coincidences, these are coordinates. God is not sending you random signals. He is sending precise confirmations timed to the exact moments your faith wavers. And the reason the frequency of these signs has increased lately is because the power is closer to the surface than it has ever been. The closer the activation gets, the louder the confirmations become. The fifth sign is that your emotions have become unpredictable. Tears come from nowhere. Not sad tears, not happy tears, just tears. You are driving, and suddenly your eyes are wet, and you do not know why. You are listening to a song you have heard 100 times, and something in your chest cracks open. You feel waves of peace, followed by waves of sadness, followed by waves of something you cannot name, a stirring, a pressure, a rising. And you have been wondering if you are becoming unstable, if the stress has finally gotten to you, if this is the beginning of something you should be worried about. It is not instability. It is movement. The power inside you is pushing through emotional channels that have been closed for years. Think of it like water breaking through a dam. The first thing that comes through is not clean water. It is debris, old emotions, old grief, old joy you never let yourself fully feel, and it comes in waves because the power moves in waves. What you are experiencing is not breakdown. It is breakthrough moving through the only channels it can find. The sixth sign is that your mind is restless in a way it has never been before. Old answers do not satisfy you anymore. Books that used to feed you now feel shallow. Teachings that used to ground you now feel incomplete. And you keep searching for something deeper, something more, but you cannot articulate what it is. You just know that the way you used to think is no longer big enough for what you are becoming. This is your brain outgrowing its current operating system. The power God placed inside you requires a mind that can hold complexity, paradox, mystery, and revelation all at the same time. And your old mental framework was not built for that. So it is crumbling. Not because something is going wrong, but because something bigger is being installed. The restlessness you feel is not confusion. It is your intellect preparing for a capacity upgrade that most people never experience. And the seventh sign, the one that ties everything together, is a persistent feeling that you are being watched, not in a threatening way, in a sacred way. You feel a presence, a hand on your life, a sense that someone or something is orchestrating events behind the scenes in ways you cannot see but can absolutely feel. Doors close that should have stayed open. Opportunities appear from directions you never expected. People enter your life at the exact moment you needed them, and leave at the exact moment their season was over. And deep inside, you have this unshakable sense that your life is not random, that there is a script being written by a hand you cannot see, that every detour, every delay, every disappointment was placed with surgical precision. You are right. The author of your power is monitoring its emergence. He has been watching every moment. And the reason you feel his presence more strongly now than ever before is because the distance between the hidden and the revealed is collapsing. If you recognized yourself in 3 or more of those signs, if something inside you shifted while I was speaking, I want you to do something right now. Type the words, "I see it." Type it as a confirmation of what God is showing you in this moment, not for me, for you. Because the act of acknowledging what you are feeling is the first step in cooperating with what God is activating. Now, let me tell you something that most people in this space will never tell you. There is a critical difference between a general blessing and a specific power, and understanding this difference will change how you see everything about your life. God blesses many. He sends rain on the just and the unjust. He provides, He protects, He comforts. These are blessings, and they are real, and they matter. But what I am talking about is different. A blessing is something God gives you. A power is something God builds into you. A blessing can come and go with seasons. A power is permanent. It is woven into the fabric of who you are. It does not depend on your circumstances. It does not fluctuate with your faith. It is structural. It was placed inside you before you had the ability to ask for it, before you had the language to name it, before the world had any influence over who you would become. And the reason most chosen ones spend years feeling frustrated is because they are waiting for a blessing when God has already given them something far greater. They are waiting for the rain when they are the river. You are not waiting for God to send you something. You are waiting for God to reveal what He already built. And that leads me to something I need you to understand before this part ends. Think of your life as soil, not random soil. Specific soil. Every experience you have walked through, every betrayal that cut deep, every season of waiting that felt endless, every relationship that broke apart in ways that still do not make sense. Those were not punishments. They were not evidence that God forgot about you. They were the specific combination of minerals that only your seed needed to grow. Because God planted a seed inside you before you were born. A seed that contains the entire blueprint of the power you are meant to carry. But a seed does not grow in comfortable soil. A seed grows in soil that has been broken, turned, soaked with tears, compressed by pressure, and left in darkness long enough for the roots to go deep. Every hard season of your life was the soil being prepared, and here is what that means for you right now. The seed is no longer dormant. The soil has been ready for longer than you realize. And the first green shoot is pushing through the surface. That is what those 7 signs are. They are not random spiritual phenomena. They are the first visible evidence that the seed God planted in darkness is finally breaking through into light. But here is what I need you to hear. This power has been invisible, even to you. And there is a devastating reason for that, a reason that will change how you see your entire life. There is a phenomenon that scientists have studied for decades. They call it the decline effect. It explains why children can do things that adults cannot. Why you felt magical as a child, why you learned faster, dreamed bigger, sensed deeper, and then slowly, year by year, that magic faded until you could barely remember what it felt like. The decline effect is not just a psychological concept. I believe it is the scientific name for something spiritual. I believe it is the mechanism by which the world suppresses the God-given power that every chosen one is born with. And I am going to show you exactly how it works, why it happened to you specifically, and what is now happening to reverse it. That is part 2. And I need to warn you, what I am about to reveal will redefine how you see yourself. It will explain the gap between who you were as a child and who you feel like now. And it will show you, with both scientific evidence and spiritual truth, that the power you thought you lost was never gone. It was hidden, on purpose, by the same God who is now choosing to reveal it. Do not leave. What comes next is the foundation of everything. Chosen one, in the last part, I showed you 7 signs, 7 markers that something unprecedented is stirring inside you right now. And if you recognized yourself in those signs, then you already know in your spirit that what I am about to share is not theory. It is confirmation of what you have been feeling but could not name. Now, I need to show you what is behind those signs. Because the signs are just the smoke. What I am about to reveal is the fire. Remember what I told you about the decline effect? The scientific phenomenon that explains why children operate at a level that adults seem to lose access to. I need to take you deeper into that now, because when you understand what the decline effect actually is, and what it has been doing to you specifically, every confusing season of your life will suddenly click into place. Neuroscientists at some of the most respected institutions in the world, Princeton, MIT, Harvard, Stanford, have been studying a brainwave pattern called gamma. Gamma is the fastest frequency the human brain produces. It operates at about 40 cycles per second, faster than any other brainwave, and it is directly linked to states of genius-level thinking, deep intuition, creative breakthrough, heightened perception, and what researchers describe as moments of sudden revelation. Those moments when everything clicks, when you see the answer before you can explain it, when you know something is true before anyone proves it to you. Those are gamma moments. But here is what makes this extraordinary. Every child is born with high gamma activity. Every single one. As a child, your gamma waves were firing at full capacity. That is why you learned languages effortlessly, why your creativity seemed limitless, why your imagination could build worlds in seconds, why you could walk into a room and sense exactly what was happening emotionally before anyone said a word. You were operating on the highest frequency the human brain can produce. And then something happened. Around the age of 7, the modern world began to suppress it. Educational systems that reward memorization over intuition. Social environments that punish sensitivity and reward conformity. Stress, overstimulation, screens, noise. Year by year, layer by layer, the gamma frequency that was once your natural state got turned down. Scientists measured it. They documented it. They called it the decline effect. The systematic dimming of the brain's most powerful frequency as a person moves from childhood into adulthood. And for most people, that is the end of the story. Their gamma dims, they adapt, they live ordinary lives, and they never think about it again. But you are not most people, and this is where the science meets the sacred. What scientists call gamma, I believe, is the neurological fingerprint of what God calls power. It is the physical mechanism through which divine capacity operates in a human body. It is the hardware that runs the software of purpose, calling, discernment, and spiritual authority. And when that hardware gets suppressed by the world, the power does not disappear. It goes dormant. It goes underground. It goes into hiding. And here is the part that changes everything. You were not born with average gamma activity. You were born with more. That is why you learned faster than your peers. That is why you asked questions that made adults uncomfortable. That is why you could read a room before anyone told you what was happening. That is why you always felt like you carried something that other people did not seem to carry. You were right. You did carry something. You carried elevated gamma. You carried a neurological frequency that was higher, stronger, and more sensitive than the people around you. And the world has a word for children like that. They call them gifted. But God has a different word. He calls them chosen. And here is the devastating part. Because your gamma was higher to begin with, when the decline effect hit, when the world began turning it down, you felt the loss more acutely than anyone around you. The gap between who you were and who you became was wider for you than it was for them. The distance between the child who felt magical and the adult who feels heavy, that distance is not depression, it is not failure, it is not aging, it is the precise measurement of how much power has been lying dormant inside you. Think about that for a moment. Every year that felt heavy, every season where you could not access the clarity you used to have, every morning where the fog sat on your mind and you could not remember what it felt like to think with that effortless speed you had. As a child, that was not decay, that was suppression. The world did not break your power, it buried it. And there is a vast difference between something that is broken and something that is buried. Because broken things need to be replaced, but buried things only need to be dug up. And that is exactly what God is doing right now. He is digging up what the world buried. He is reversing the decline effect. He is turning the volume back up on a frequency that was always yours. Now, I promised you at the beginning of this journey that you would understand why you have felt different your entire life. And this is that understanding. This is the answer. You felt different because you were different. Not emotionally different, not psychologically different, neurologically and spiritually different. You were born carrying a higher frequency of divine power than the people around you. And when the world suppressed it, you felt a loss that they could not comprehend because they never had what you had to begin with. That is why no one understood your grief. That is why no one could explain your restlessness. That is why the advice people gave you never worked, because they were trying to solve a problem they had never experienced. They were trying to help someone who lost $100 when you had lost $1 million. The scale was different, the weight was different, the ache was different. And now you know why. I want to take you even deeper now, because understanding the science is one layer, but understanding the theology is what will make this truth unshakable in your spirit. There is a word in the original Hebrew scriptures that most English translations reduce to a single word, power. But the Hebrew word carries a meaning that the English word cannot hold. The word is koach. In the book of Micah, chapter 3, verse 8, the prophet says, "But as for me, I am filled with koach." Most translations say power, some say strength. But the original Hebrew reveals something extraordinary. Koach does not mean power in the way we normally think of it. Koach means latent capacity that exists before it is demonstrated. Let me say that again because this is critical. Koach is not power you earn. It is not power you develop. It is not power that arrives from outside of you. Koach is power that already is. It exists inside the vessel, whether or not it has ever been displayed, whether or not anyone has ever seen it, whether or not you yourself have ever accessed it. Koach is the strength of the seed before it becomes a tree, the fire inside the match before it is struck, the song inside the instrument before it is played. And when Micah said, "I am filled with koach," he was not saying, "God just gave me power." He was saying, "I am recognizing a power that was already placed inside me, a power that existed before I ever demonstrated it, a power that is not dependent on my circumstances or my performance or my understanding." Do you see what this means for you? God is not rewarding you by giving you something new. He is rewarding you by revealing something ancient. The coach, the power, was placed inside you before your first breath, before your first prayer, before your first failure, before the world had any say in who you would become. It was there in the crib. It was there in the classroom. It was there in the pit. It was there in every season you thought God had forgotten about you. You were never without power. You were carrying power you did not know how to see. And what is happening right now, in this season, in this moment, is that God is giving you the eyes to see what was always there. That is the reward, not a deposit, a revelation. Now let me show you what this looks like in a life, because theology without example is just theory, and I do not want you to leave this message with theory. I want you to leave with a mirror that shows you your own reflection. There was a young man in the book of Genesis whose name was Joseph. And Joseph's story is one of the most misunderstood stories in sacred history. Most people tell Joseph's story as a rags to riches narrative. He was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, thrown into prison, and then God elevated him to become the second most powerful man in Egypt. And that is true. All of that happened. But that is the movie version, the trailer, the highlight reel. The real story is about power. Specifically, it is about a power that was hidden for decades inside a man who had every reason to believe it did not exist. When Joseph was a boy, he had dreams, vivid, prophetic, undeniable dreams. And those dreams were not just imagination. They were the first evidence of koach. They were the smoke from a fire that God had already lit inside him. Joseph could see what others could not see. He could perceive the future before it arrived. He could interpret patterns that no one else recognized. That was his power, and it was enormous. But here is what happened. God took that power underground. Not because Joseph failed, not because the dreams were wrong, but because the power was too volatile for an unformed vessel. Joseph's brothers threw him into a pit. He was sold to strangers. He was enslaved in a foreign land. He was falsely accused. He was imprisoned. And during all of that, the power was inside him. The ability to interpret, to perceive, to govern, to lead, it was all there in the dungeon. It was all there in the chains. It was all there in the silence. But no one could see it, including Joseph himself. For 13 years, Joseph carried a power he could not access, in environments that did not reflect it, surrounded by people who could not recognize it. 13 years of coach, buried under circumstance. 13 years of the most powerful man in the room, looking like the most defeated man in the room. Does that sound familiar? Because I believe that is exactly where many of you have been living. You have been carrying Joseph-level power in prison-level circumstances, and the gap between what you carry and where you are has been the source of your deepest frustration. But here is what Joseph's story teaches us. He did not receive power in Pharaoh's palace. He revealed power that had been forming in the pit. The palace did not create the gift. The pit did. The slavery sharpened his resilience. The false accusation refined his integrity. The prison developed his patience. And when the moment came, when Pharaoh needed someone who could see what no advisor could see, Joseph did not ask for power. He simply operated in what had been built during the years no one was watching. The pit was not the punishment. The pit was the forge. And your pit, whatever form it has taken, your unemployment, your broken relationship, your health crisis, your season of invisibility, your years of praying without seeing, that was not God abandoning you. That was God forging something inside you that could only be built in darkness, something that comfortable seasons could never produce, something that ease and applause and early success would have actually destroyed. Your hard years were not wasted. They were the laboratory where your unprecedented power was being constructed. If something just shifted inside you, if the way you see your own history just changed, even slightly, I want you to type the words, "I receive," in the comments right now, not as a ritual, as an act of reception. You are receiving a new lens for your own life. You are receiving the truth that your pit was your forge, and the power that was built in that forge is unlike anything the world has seen, because no one else has been through your exact fire. Now, before I show you what comes next, I want to pause for a moment, because what I have just shared with you, the science of gamma, the theology of Koach, the pattern of Joseph, this is not common knowledge. Most people will go their entire lives without connecting these dots. And if this message has already shifted something in how you see yourself, then I need you to do something simple. Before we continue, gently press the like button. Not for me, but so that this message can reach another chosen one who has been lying awake at night, wondering why they feel so different from everyone around them. Someone out there right now is carrying the same weight you carry, feeling the same gap you feel, and they have no language for it. Your like is what helps this message find them. That is all. Now, listen carefully, because what comes next is where everything begins to escalate. You now understand something that most people never grasp. You understand that you carry a power, Koach, that was placed inside you before birth. You understand that the decline effect suppressed its neurological expression, your gamma frequency, starting around age 7. You understand that your hard seasons were not random, but were the specific forge that shaped a power unique to you. And you understand, through Joseph, that the revelation of power always follows a season of hiddenness. But there is a consequence to what I have just shown you, and it is a consequence that will affect every area of your life. When this power fully activates, and I want to be clear, it is not a question of if but when, your environment will have no choice but to reorganize around you. Not because you force it, not because you demand it, not because you manipulate circumstances into alignment, but because power at this level creates its own gravitational field. Think about what happens when you put a magnet into a pile of metal shavings. The magnet does not chase the shavings. The magnet does not beg the shavings to come closer. The magnet simply is, and everything that is meant to respond to its field responds. Everything that is not meant to respond falls away. That is what is about to happen in your life. Relationships that are aligned with your power will be drawn closer. Relationships that cannot survive the frequency shift will fall away. And I know that sounds painful, and in some cases it will be, but it is necessary. You cannot carry unprecedented power in an environment designed for an ordinary life. The container must match the contents, and God is restructuring your container right now. Your finances will reorganize, not because you found a new hustle or a better strategy, but because provision follows power. When you are operating in the fullness of what God placed inside you, resources flow toward the assignment, not away from it. Doors that were sealed will open without your hand touching them. Opportunities will arrive from directions you never anticipated. And the provision will match the scale of the power, not the scale of your past. Your purpose will clarify. The confusion that has plagued you, the sense that you nusmut people, you meant for something but cannot see exactly what it is, that confusion will dissolve. Not all at once, but steadily, like fog burning off in morning sun. Because purpose is not something you discover through analysis. Purpose is something that becomes obvious when power is activated. The seed does not need to decide what kind of tree to become. The blueprint is already in the DNA, and when the seed breaks through the soil, the tree reveals itself. All of this is coming. All of this is in motion. But here is the question that I know is forming in your mind right now, and it is the right question. It is the question that will take us into the next part of this journey. If this power was always inside you, if Koach was placed before your first breath, if your gamma was once fully active, if the 7 signs confirm that reactivation is underway, then why? Why did God hide it? Why did he allow the decline effect? Why did he let you walk through 13 years, or 20 years, or 40 years of feeling like something was missing? Why would a loving God conceal the most extraordinary thing he ever placed inside a human being? The answer is not simple, and I will not pretend it is. But I will tell you this. The answer involves 3 layers: protection, development, and divine timing. Each one is necessary. Each one is painful to hear. And each one will release something inside you when you understand it. That is part 3. And I need to warn you, part 3 is where this message goes from revelation to reformation. It is where the way you see God, the way you see your pain, and the way you see your future will permanently shift. What you have heard so far is the foundation. What comes next is the structure that everything else will be built on. Do not walk away. The deepest truth is still ahead. Chosen one, before I reveal why God hid your power, I need to honor something first. Because if I skip past this, everything I say after will feel hollow. You have been carrying a gift that no one sees. Not a small gift, not a manageable inconvenience. A deep, structural, bone-level knowing that you were made for something the world has not made room for. And the cost of carrying that knowing in silence has been enormous. You have sat in rooms where your ideas were dismissed by people who could not see 3 steps ahead. You have poured into relationships where you gave at a depth that was never returned. You have applied for positions that were beneath what you carry and still been told you were not enough. You have prayed prayers that felt like they hit a brass ceiling and you have lain awake at night with a question that no sermon, no book, no well-meaning friend has ever been able to answer. Why can I feel this power inside me when nothing in my life reflects it? I am not going to skip past that pain. I am not going to rush to the good news, because the pain of invisibility is real. It is one of the heaviest things a human being can carry, to know what lives inside you and to watch the world treat you as if it does not exist. So before we go further, I want you to hear this. I see it. God sees it. And what I am about to show you will prove that the invisibility was not permanent. It was strategic. There are 3 reasons God concealed the most powerful thing he has ever placed inside a human vessel, and each one of them will require something from you. Not effort, not performance, just honesty. The honesty to look at your own story through a lens you have never used before. The first reason God hid your power is protection. Not protection of the world from you, protection of the power from the world. Let me show you what I mean. There was a man named Moses, and Moses is one of the most misunderstood figures in sacred history. Most people remember Moses as the great deliverer, the one who stood before Pharaoh, the one who split the sea, the one who received the commandments on the mountain. And that is all true. But before any of that happened, Moses made a mistake that cost him 40 years. Moses was born with extraordinary power. He knew it. He felt it from childhood. He was raised in Pharaoh's palace with access to education, influence, and authority that no other Hebrew had. And he could feel the calling burning inside him. He could feel that he was meant to deliver his people. The power was real. The assignment was real. The sense of destiny was undeniable. And so, one day, Moses acted on it. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave, and in a surge of righteous anger, he killed the Egyptian. He revealed his power. He stepped into his calling. He made his move, and everything collapsed. He was exposed. He was hunted. He had to flee into the desert. And for the next 40 years, the most powerful deliverer in human history spent his days herding sheep in a wilderness so remote that history forgot he existed. 40 years, not because the power was wrong, not because the calling was fake, but because the power was revealed before the vessel was ready to carry it. Moses had the gift, but he did not yet have the character. He had the fire, but he did not yet have the control. He had the assignment, but he did not yet have the humility to execute it without destroying himself and everyone around him in the process. And this is what I need you to understand. God did not punish Moses for killing the Egyptian. God protected Moses from the consequences of premature power, because power revealed before formation is complete does not liberate, it detonates. Think about what would have happened if Moses had succeeded that day. If he had started a rebellion in his own strength, with his own timing, driven by his own anger. He would have led a revolt. It would have been crushed. Thousands would have died. And the deliverance that was meant to happen through divine orchestration would have been reduced to a failed political uprising. God sent Moses to the desert, not as punishment, but as protection. Protection of the power, protection of the assignment, protection of the people who would one day depend on what Moses carried. And here is why this matters for you. If God has been hiding your power, if the world has not yet seen what you carry, it is not because he forgot about you. It is because he saw what would happen if the wrong people encountered your power before you were ready. There are environments that cannot handle what you carry. There are relationships that would have exploited it. There are systems that would have weaponized it. And there are enemies, visible and invisible, that would have targeted you the moment your power became visible. God hid your power, because if it had been exposed at the wrong time, to the wrong eyes, in the wrong season, it would have been damaged, stolen, or destroyed before it could fulfill its purpose. The invisibility you have endured was not neglect. It was a security system. And the fact that you are hearing this message right now means the security period is ending. The vault is opening, not because the threats have disappeared, but because you have been formed enough to carry the power through them. That is the first reason, protection. But the second reason is harder to hear, and I need you to be honest with yourself for what comes next. The second reason God hid your power is development. A power the world has never seen requires a character the world has never built. And character is not built in comfort. It is not built in applause. It is not built when everything goes according to plan. Character is built in the exact conditions you have been walking through, the conditions you have been begging God to remove. Every waiting season developed something in you that speed would have skipped. Every unanswered prayer built a muscle of trust that instant answers would have atrophied. Every closed door forced you to develop a resilience that open doors would have made unnecessary. And every person who left your life created a space that forced you to stand on your own strength instead of leaning on theirs. God was not hiding your power from you. He was building you for it. Let me put it this way. Imagine handing a child the keys to a car with 1,000 horsepower. The child has the potential to drive. The child may even understand, in theory, how a car works. But without the formation, without the years of developing judgment, reflex, awareness, the car does not become a tool. It becomes a weapon. Not because the car is bad, because the driver is not yet ready. Your power is the car. Your formation was the driving school. And God was not going to hand you the keys until he was certain you would not destroy yourself or the people in your path. Think about what has been developed in you during the hidden years. Really think about it. You have developed discernment, the ability to see through false kindness, to sense when something is off before there is evidence, to read what is really happening beneath the surface of a conversation. That did not come from a classroom. That came from being deceived, from being betrayed, from learning the hard way that not everyone who smiles at you is standing with you. You have developed endurance, not the flashy kind that people admire from the outside, but the quiet, brutal, grinding kind of endurance that keeps showing up on Monday morning when Friday night tried to break you. That came from the years that did not let up, the seasons that did not give you a break, the stretches of time where you had no evidence that anything was changing, and you kept going anyway. You have developed humility, not the weak, defeated kind, the real kind, the kind that knows you are powerful but does not need to prove it, the kind that can sit in a room full of people who underestimate you and feel no need to correct them. That came from years of being overlooked, years of being underestimated, years of carrying a secret about yourself that no one else could verify. You have developed compassion, deep, earned, expensive compassion, the kind that does not come from reading about suffering, but from living through it, the kind that allows you to sit with someone in their darkest moment and not flinch, because you have been in your own darkness and you know what it takes to survive it. And you have developed spiritual sensitivity, a connection to the divine that shallow seasons could never produce, the ability to hear what God is saying when he speaks in whispers, the ability to feel shifts in the spiritual atmosphere that people who have never suffered simply cannot detect. These 5 attributes, discernment, endurance, humility, compassion, and spiritual sensitivity, are not accessories. They are the infrastructure of your power. Without them, the power would operate without wisdom. Without them, the gift would function without grace. Without them, you would become what the world already has too many of, powerful people who leave destruction in their wake because they never learned how to carry what they were given. God took his time building you because what he placed inside you is too important to be carried by an unfinished vessel. If you receive that, if you can look at your hardest seasons and begin to see the formation instead of just the frustration, I want you to type Amen in the comments. Type it as an agreement between your spirit and the truth that your pain was not pointless, that your wilderness was not wasted, that every day you endured was another layer of infrastructure being poured into the foundation of a power the world has never seen. Now, the third reason, and this one is different from the first two. Protection was about the past, shielding the power during your vulnerable years. Development was about the process, building the vessel to match the contents. But the third reason is about timing, and it has nothing to do with you, and everything to do with the world. Your power was hidden because the world was not ready for it yet. God operates on a timeline that most people cannot comprehend. Not the clock on your wall, not the calendar on your phone. God operates on what the ancient texts call kairos, the appointed time. Kairos is not a date, it is a convergence. It is the moment when the preparation of the person, the need of the world, and the will of the divine all collide at the same point in time and space. And that convergence is happening right now, not 5 years from now, not next season, now. The world is entering a period of confusion, disruption, and spiritual hunger that it has not experienced in generations. Systems that people relied on are shaking. Certainties that people built their lives around are dissolving. And into that vacuum, God is releasing a generation of carriers, people whose power was forged in hiddenness, refined in suffering, and calibrated for this exact moment. You are not late. You did not miss your window. The window was not open yet. And the reason God kept you hidden was not because he was punishing your impatience. It was because the world was not yet desperate enough to receive what you carry. Think about Joseph one more time. Joseph was ready in the prison. His power was fully formed. His ability to interpret, to strategize, to govern, all of it was operational in the dungeon. But God did not release him until Egypt was on the edge of a famine. Because Joseph's power was not designed for normal times, it was designed for crisis. And crisis had not yet arrived. Your power is the same. It was not designed for a world that is running smoothly. It was designed for exactly the kind of world we are living in right now. A world that is confused, searching, aching for something authentic, something that carries weight, something that feels real in an ocean of empty noise. And that is why the timing is now. Not because you finally earned it, not because you finally performed well enough, but because the world finally needs what you carry. And God, in his precision, in his kindness, in his devastating patience, waited until both you and the world were ready at the same time. These three reasons, protection, development, and timing, they are not separate explanations. They are one truth viewed from three angles. God hid your power to protect it from premature exposure, to develop the vessel that would carry it, and to time its release for the moment of maximum impact. And when you hold all three of those together, something shifts. The story of your life is no longer a tragedy of wasted years. It is a strategy of divine precision. Every year makes sense. Every season has a purpose. Every scar is evidence of construction, not destruction. But I need to go one layer deeper before we leave this part, because there is something about the decline effect that I have not yet shown you. Something that connects the science to the sacred in a way that will settle this truth permanently in your spirit. Remember what I taught you about gamma, the brainwave frequency, linked to genius, intuition, and divine perception. Remember the decline effect, how the world systematically suppresses gamma from age 7 onward. Here is what I did not tell you before. The suppression was not random. It was not an accident of modern life that happened to affect everyone equally. The decline effect hit you harder than it hit the people around you. And the reason is the same reason you felt the loss more deeply. Your gamma was higher to begin with. You were born with a frequency calibration that was above average, above normal, above what the systems of this world were designed to support. And when those systems began pushing gamma down, yours had further to fall. The gap between your original frequency and your suppressed frequency was wider than the gap most people experienced. That is why their adjustment was smooth and yours was agonizing. That is why they adapted and you suffered. That is why they moved on and you could not shake the feeling that something fundamental had been stolen. But here is what the science does not know. What the scientists measured as suppression, I believe God designed as protection. The decline effect was not the enemy dimming your light. It was God himself placing a protective shield around a power that was too volatile for an unformed vessel. He did not let the world suppress your gamma because he could not stop it. He allowed the suppression because, at that stage of your life, full gamma activity in an unformed character would have been devastating. You would have perceived too much without the wisdom to process it. You would have influenced too many without the humility to steward it. You would have burned too bright, too fast, and consumed yourself before your assignment could begin. The decline effect was not your enemy, it was your guardian. And now that the formation is complete, now that the character matches the capacity, the guardian is stepping aside, the shield is being lifted, and the gamma, the power, the frequency that was always yours, is surging back to its original level. And as I share this with you, I feel something rising in my spirit, a word that is not from me but through me, and I need to speak it over you right now. I hear the Father saying, "My child, I did not hide your power to punish you. I hid it to protect it until you were strong enough to carry it without it crushing you. The weight you felt was not my absence. It was my hand, pressing down on the seed so the roots could go deeper. And now the roots are deep enough. Now the soil is breaking. Now the tree is rising. And what rises from you will feed nations that do not yet know they are hungry. Do not be afraid of the size of what I placed in you. I measured it before I gave it. I tested the vessel before I filled it. And I chose you, not because you were the strongest candidate, but because you were the one who kept saying yes when every circumstance screamed no. That faithfulness moved my heart, and this power is my response." Take a breath. Let those words settle. They are not mine. They were meant for you before I ever spoke them. Now, there is something we need to do before moving forward, because understanding why God hid your power is one thing, but understanding what the hidden years actually built inside you, what specific structures of identity and strength were constructed in the darkness, that is what transforms knowledge into freedom. And that is where we go next. Because the formation was not vague, it was not general character building, it was precise. It was surgical. God removed specific things and installed specific things during your hidden years. And when you see what he took out and what he put in, you will understand for the first time why the pain had to be that specific, why the losses had to be those losses, and why no one else's formation could have produced the power that lives inside you. Take a breath. The heaviest part is behind us. What comes next is the part where everything begins to make sense. Before we go into what was built during your formation, I need to show you what was torn down, because God does not build on corrupt foundations. He demolishes first, then he constructs. And the demolition, chosen one, that is what the most painful seasons of your life actually were. You were not falling apart. You were being deconstructed, on purpose, by the same hands that are now putting you back together in a configuration the world has never seen. Here is what I mean. Before God could reveal your true power, he had to remove every false identity you were wearing, not the identities you chose, the identities that were placed on you by your environment, by your upbringing, by the expectations of people who could not see what you carried, by a world that had no category for who you actually are. And this is painful to hear, because those false identities felt like you. They were comfortable, they were familiar, and letting them go felt like dying, because, in a very real sense, it was. Parts of you had to die, so the real you could emerge. The first identity that had to be stripped was the people pleaser. You spent years, maybe decades, measuring your worth by how useful you were to others. You said yes when your spirit screamed no. You showed up for every crisis, every phone call, every need, and you did it with a smile, because deep down you believed that if you stopped being useful, you would stop being loved. And God had to tear that identity off of you. Not gently, because gentle removal does not work with identities that have fused to your sense of self. He allowed people to take advantage of your generosity until the pain of giving became louder than the fear of not being needed. He allowed relationships to drain you to the point where you had nothing left to pour, and in that emptiness, you discovered something revolutionary. You discovered that your power requires boundaries that the people-pleaser could never set. Your power operates in fullness, not in depletion. And the people-pleaser had to die so the powerful one could breathe. The second identity that had to be stripped was the performer. Somewhere along the way you learned that love was conditional, that acceptance had to be earned, that you were only as valuable as your last achievement, your last contribution, your last visible success. And so you performed. You performed at work. You performed in relationships. You performed in your spiritual life. Always producing, always demonstrating, always proving that you deserved to be in the room. And God dismantled that identity by allowing seasons where your performance failed, where you gave your best and it was not enough, where you showed up prepared and still fell short, not because you were inadequate, but because the power God placed inside you does not need applause to function. Your power operates in authenticity, not performance. And the performer had to exit so the authentic one could arrive. The third identity that had to be stripped was the controller. You learned early that if you did not manage everything, everything would fall apart. So you held the plans, you held the timelines, you held the people. You white-knuckled your way through life because the alternative, surrender, felt like freefall. And God broke that identity by placing you in situations you could not control, outcomes you could not manage, seasons where every plan you made disintegrated and you were forced, kicking and fighting, into a posture of surrender. And in that surrender, you discovered that your power does not operate through management. It operates through trust, through yielding to a hand bigger than yours. The controller had to release the wheel so God could steer toward a destination your mind was too small to imagine. The fourth identity that had to be stripped was the victim. Not the victimhood of actual trauma, that is real, and I honor it, but the identity of victimhood, the narrative that says everything that happened to you was done to you, and therefore you have no agency, no responsibility, and no power to write a different chapter. God dismantled the victim identity by showing you, slowly, painfully, undeniably, that the same wounds that were inflicted on you became the raw material for wisdom, that the betrayal became discernment, that the abandonment became self-sufficiency, that the injustice became a fire that now burns for others who cannot fight for themselves. The victim sees wounds, your power sees weapons. and the victim had to step aside so the warrior could take the field. And the fifth identity that had to be stripped was the hardest one, the invisible one. This was the deepest, the most entrenched, because it was not given to you by a person or a circumstance. It was given to you by the repeated experience of being unseen, year after year of carrying brilliance that no one acknowledged, year after year of offering insight that no one valued, year after year of knowing you had something the room needed and watching the room look right through you as if you were not there. And that invisibility calcified into an identity. You began to believe that being unseen was who you were, not just what was happening to you. You internalized the world's inability to perceive you as evidence that there was nothing to perceive. But God shattered that lie by bringing you to this moment, right here, right now. Because what I have been showing you across this entire journey is that you were never invisible. Your power was invisible. And there is a universe of difference between those two things. You were always seen by God. Your power was hidden by God. And the hiddenness was not because the power was small. It was because the power was so large that premature visibility would have been catastrophic. The invisible one had to die so the revealed one could step into the light. If you felt something break while I was speaking, if one of those 5 identities hit you so hard you could barely breathe, I want you to do something right now. Type "I release" in the comments. Release the people pleaser. Release the performer. Release the controller. Release the victim. Release the invisible one. Type "I release" as a declaration that the old identity no longer has permission to occupy the space where your power needs to live. Now let me show you what was being built while the demolition was underway. Because God does not just tear down, He rebuilds simultaneously. And the rebuilding was happening in real time during the years you thought nothing was happening. There was a young man named David, and David is the clearest picture of what your formation has been doing. David was anointed as a boy. The prophet came to his father's house, looked at all the older, taller, more impressive brothers, and God said no to every single one of them. And then they brought in David, the youngest, the one who had been out in the fields doing the job nobody else wanted, and God said, "That is the one, anoint him." And in that moment, David had the anointing. The power was placed on him. The coach was deposited. The assignment was sealed. He was chosen. But here is what happened next. Nothing. David went back to the sheep. He went back to the fields. He went back to the silence and the solitude and the invisibility of a life that did not match the anointing he had received. He was not sent to the palace. He was not given a throne. He was not promoted. He was anointed and then returned to obscurity. For years, years of tending sheep while carrying a king's anointing, years of fighting lions and bears in the dark where no one watched and no one clapped, years of developing skill, courage, and intimacy with God in a field that history would never record. And then came Goliath. And suddenly, the nation discovered what the field had been building. But here is what most people miss. David did not become powerful when he stood in front of Goliath. David became powerful in the field, in the anonymity, in the solitude. The courage that killed the giant was first developed, killing a lion that nobody saw. The precision that launched the stone was first refined, throwing stones at predators in the middle of the night, with no audience and no applause. The faith that defied an army was first built whispering prayers to God in a wilderness where no human ear could hear. The field was not the delay. The field was the forge. And your field, chosen one, whatever form it has taken, your season of tending to things that felt beneath your calling, your years of fighting battles in the dark that no one acknowledged, your long stretches of solitude where you could not understand why you were still waiting, Those were not God forgetting about you. Those were God doing the exact same thing he did with David, building the warrior in the wilderness before releasing the king to the nation. David did not need the throne to prove his power. The throne needed David's power to function, and the power was built in the very place that felt like punishment. Your job that felt beneath you, it was developing administrative discipline for the empire you are about to govern. Your broken relationship, it was teaching you discernment for the divine connections that are being prepared. Your financial drought, it was stripping your dependence on provision so you could learn to depend on the provider. Your years of silence, they were building an intimacy with God so deep that when he speaks in a whisper, you will hear it over the roar of 1,000 voices. Nothing was wasted. Every day of your formation was a day of construction. And now I need you to hear something that very few voices in this space will ever say to you. And it is not easy to hear, but it is necessary. You are allowed to release the guilt of leaving the old version of yourself behind. You are allowed to outgrow people. You are allowed to outgrow places. You are allowed to outgrow habits, routines, environments, and versions of yourself that served you in survival but cannot serve you in power. You are allowed to protect what God is building inside you, even when that protection looks like distance from people who expect unlimited access. You are allowed to say no without providing an explanation to people who have not earned an explanation. You are allowed to be quiet about what God is doing in your life, not because you are ashamed, but because not every seed is meant to be observed while it is still underground. And you do not owe anyone an apology for becoming who you were always intended to be. Now, I want to do something with you, not something physical, something in your spirit. And I need about 60 seconds of your full attention. In your mind, I want you to see every hard season of your life lined up in a row, not as a timeline of suffering, as a gallery of forges, each one lit with fire, each one filled with heat and pressure and darkness. And in each one, something was being shaped. Walk through the gallery in your mind. The first forge, maybe it was childhood. See the fire. See what was being tempered in that heat. The second forge, maybe it was a relationship that broke you open. See the fire. See what was being purified. The third forge, maybe it was the season of waiting that felt like it would never end. See the fire. See the endurance being pounded into the steel of your character. Now step back and look at all of them together. Every forge is connected. Every fire was feeding the same furnace. And what has emerged from that furnace is not a broken person. It is a weapon. It is a tool so precisely calibrated for its assignment that no factory on Earth could have produced it. Only fire could. Only pressure could. Only darkness could. You are not the sum of what happened to you. You are the power that emerged from it. Open your eyes, settle back into the room, and carry that image with you, because you are going to need it for what comes next. Now, I want to share something with you that connects everything we have discussed so far to something very specific, something scientific, something that I believe God led me to discover while I was preparing this message for you, and it changes the entire conversation. While I was studying the decline effect, while I was digging into the research on gamma suppression and how it connects to the spiritual power God places in his chosen ones, I came across a study from Princeton, and what this study revealed stopped me in my tracks. The researchers discovered that the gamma frequency, the exact brainwave pattern that gets suppressed by the modern world, starting in childhood, can be reactivated. Not through years of disciplined meditation, although meditation can help over long periods of time. Not through expensive biofeedback equipment that costs thousands of dollars and requires clinical supervision. but through a specific auditory technology, a sound-based mechanism that uses the brain's own entrainment response to guide neural pathways back into the gamma frequency. In other words, scientists have found a way to turn the switch back on, the same switch that the world turned off when you were 7 years old, the same switch that dimmed the frequency God gave you at birth, the same switch that caused the gap between the child who felt magical and the adult who feels heavy. And it works in 7 minutes, not 7 months, not 7 years, 7 minutes. I am going to show you exactly what this technology is, how it was developed, who developed it, and how it connects to the power God placed inside you. All of that is coming in the next part. But before we get there, I want to tell you what else is coming, because the next part is not just about science. It is about a framework, a specific practice with a name that you can begin using tonight. I call it the Power Audit Protocol, and it will help you identify exactly which dimension of your power is currently active and which is still dormant. Once you know that, you know precisely where to focus your energy. So, part 5 is where the science meets the sacred. It is where the teaching becomes the tool, and it is where you receive the specific, practical framework I promised you at the beginning of this journey. Stay close. What comes next is the part that turns revelation into action. Chosen one, welcome to the part of this journey where the science meets the sacred, where understanding becomes equipment, where truth becomes a tool you can hold in your hands. Because everything I have shown you so far, the 7 signs, the gamma frequency, the coach, the 3 reasons God hid your power, the 5 identities that were stripped away, the forges that built your character, all of that was the foundation. It was the WHY. But what I am about to give you now is the how. And I promised you at the very beginning that before this journey was over, you would have a specific practice, a framework with a name that you could begin using tonight. I do not break promises, so let me deliver. I call this the Power Audit Protocol, and it is designed to answer a question that most chosen ones have never thought to ask. The question is not, do I have power? You already know the answer to that. The question is, which dimension of my power is currently active and which is still dormant? Because your power is not one thing. It is not a single switch that flips on or off. Your power operates across 5 distinct dimensions, and understanding which dimensions are already functioning and which are still waking up changes everything about how you focus your energy in this season. Here are the 5 dimensions. The first dimension is perception. This is the ability to see what others cannot see, to read patterns in situations, in people, in spiritual atmospheres that remain invisible to the average eye. If you have ever walked into a room and immediately known something was wrong before anyone said a word, that is the perception dimension operating. If you have ever looked at a person smiling and known with certainty that they were breaking inside, that is perception. It is the seer frequency. And for many chosen ones, this is the dimension that activates first because it was the one that was most active in childhood. The second dimension is creation. This is the ability to bring something into existence that did not exist before. Not just art, although it can be art. Creation is ideas, solutions, frameworks, systems, businesses, movements. It is the ability to look at a blank space and fill it with something that the world needs. If you have ever felt overwhelmed by ideas that seem to come from nowhere, if your mind constantly generates concepts and strategies and visions faster than you can execute them, your creation dimension is active. It is just waiting for the other dimensions to catch up so it can be expressed at full capacity. The third dimension is influence. This is the ability to shift the energy, the direction, or the belief system of the people around you, not through manipulation, but through presence. If people have always been drawn to you without fully understanding why, if strangers open up to you within minutes, if you have been told you have a calming effect or an energizing effect on rooms you enter, that is influence. It operates beneath conscious awareness, and it is one of the most powerful dimensions because it does not require you to speak. It activates simply because you are in the space. The fourth dimension is healing. And I do not mean you will lay hands on someone and cure their disease, although I will not limit what God can do. What I mean is the ability to bring restoration to damaged things. Broken relationships, broken systems, broken people, broken communities. If people have always come to you when they are in crisis, if you seem to attract the wounded, if you have the ability to sit with someone in their darkest moment, and somehow, just by being there, the darkness begins to lift, your healing dimension is active. It is the wounded healer frequency, the power that transforms personal pain into medicine for others. And the fifth dimension is discernment. This is the ability to distinguish truth from deception at a level that defies logic. Not just about people, but about paths, about decisions, about spiritual movements and shifts in the atmosphere that most people cannot detect. If you have ever felt a deep unease about a decision that looked perfect on paper, and later discovered that your unease was prophetic, that is discernment. If you have ever known, without evidence, that something was about to change, and it did, that is discernment operating. Now, here is how you use the power audit protocol. Tonight, when you have a quiet moment, I want you to do a simple mental exercise. Go through each of the 5 dimensions: perception, creation, influence, healing, and discernment, and ask yourself one question for each. When was the last time this dimension showed up in my life? If the answer comes easily, if you can point to a recent example within the last week or month, that dimension is active. It is already online. It is already functioning. You do not need to activate it. You need to steward it. But if the answer feels distant, if you have to reach back years or even into childhood to find an example, that dimension is still dormant. It is not dead. It is not missing. It is waiting. And the reason it is dormant is almost always connected to one of the 5 false identities we talked about in the last part. The people pleaser suppresses influence because it does not want to take up space. The performer suppresses creation because everything produced has to be perfect. The controller suppresses discernment because trusting intuition feels too risky. The victim suppresses healing because the wounds still feel too raw to transform. And the invisible one suppresses perception because seeing clearly means feeling deeply, and feeling deeply in a world that does not see you is too painful to sustain. So, when you identify a dormant dimension, trace it back to the identity that suppressed it, and then speak to that identity the way we did in the last part. Release it, and watch the dimension begin to stir. That is the power audit protocol. 5 dimensions, 1 question each. Trace the dormancy, release the suppressor. It is simple, but simple is not the same as easy. This will require honesty, and it will require the willingness to feel things you have been avoiding. But you were built for it, and now you have the map. Before we go further, I want to pause here, because what I have just given you, the framework, the 5 dimensions, the tracing method, this has real value. And if this has already shifted how you understand your own power, then I want to ask you something simple. Gently press the like button, not for me. So this framework, this teaching, this revelation can reach another chosen one who has been trying to understand why some parts of their life feel powerful and other parts feel completely shut down. Your like, is what carries this message to them. That is all I am asking. Now, I said I would show you the science, and I am a man of my word. Remember the Princeton study I mentioned, the one about gamma reactivation? Let me take you deeper into that now, because what I am about to share is not theory, it is measured, it is documented, and it connects directly to the power God placed inside you. I have already shown you that gamma is the highest frequency the human brain produces, that it is linked to genius-level cognition, deep intuition, creative breakthrough, and what researchers call moments of sudden revelation. I have shown you that every child is born with high gamma activity, and that the modern world suppresses it through what scientists call the decline effect, beginning around age 7. But here is what I have not told you yet. The suppression is not just psychological, it is neurological, it is structural. When gamma gets turned down, the brain physically reorganizes itself to operate at lower frequencies. Beta, which is the frequency of stress and survival thinking. Alpha, which is the frequency of passive relaxation. And in many cases, even theta, which is the frequency of drowsiness and disengagement. The brain gets stuck at these lower frequencies. And when your brain is stuck in survival frequency, everything feels harder. Decision-making feels like wading through mud. Creativity feels like trying to light a match in the rain. Intuition feels like a distant memory you cannot quite access. And the connection to the divine, the spiritual sensitivity that once felt natural, it feels like shouting into a void. This is not a spiritual failure. This is a frequency problem. Your brain is running on low voltage, and the power God placed inside you requires high voltage to operate. It is like trying to run a supercomputer on a battery designed for a flashlight. The computer is not broken. The software is intact. The hardware is perfect. But the power supply is insufficient. And this is where the research becomes extraordinary, because scientists have discovered that there is a way to retrain the brain, to guide it back into gamma frequency, using the brain's own natural mechanism. The mechanism is called brain entrainment, and it works like this. When the brain is exposed to a specific auditory frequency, it naturally synchronizes its own electrical activity to match that frequency. The brain does not have to be told to do this. It does it automatically. It is the same reason your foot starts tapping when you hear a beat. Your brain locks onto the rhythm and mirrors it. Researchers found that when they exposed subjects to carefully engineered audio tracks designed to pulse at the gamma frequency, the subjects' brains began producing gamma waves within minutes, not hours, not days, minutes. And the effects were measurable on EEG scans in real time. Increased focus, enhanced intuition, accelerated problem-solving, heightened creative output, and something the researchers did not expect, a reported increase in what subjects described as spiritual clarity, a sense of connection to something larger than themselves that they could not fully articulate. The scientists documented it, they published it, they confirmed it across multiple studies at institutions including MIT, Stanford, and Columbia. But they did not know what to do with that last finding, the spiritual one, because science does not have a framework for spiritual experience. But I do, and so do you, because what those subjects were experiencing when their gamma reactivated was the same thing you experienced as a child. The frequency of divine connection coming back online, the power supply being restored to the level that the supercomputer, your God-given purpose and assignment, requires to function. Now, a neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake spent 34 years studying this exact phenomenon. He dedicated his career to one question. How do you take the laboratory discovery of gamma reactivation and make it accessible to ordinary people? People who do not have access to clinical EEG equipment. people who cannot afford $300 per session for biofeedback therapy. People who do not have $7,000 for the home equipment that was previously the only option. And after decades of research, he developed something remarkable. He compressed the entire gamma reactivation technology into a single audio track that lasts 7 minutes. He calls it the Genius Song. And I need to be honest with you about what this is and what this is not. This is not magic. It is not a spell. It is not a replacement for your spiritual journey, your prayer life, or the formation God has been building in you. Those things are irreplaceable. What this is a tool, a scientifically developed tool that uses the brain's own entrainment mechanism to guide your neural pathways back into the gamma frequency that was suppressed by the decline effect. You put on headphones. You sit down, wherever you are. You do not need to meditate. You do not need a mantra. You do not need to clear your mind or achieve any particular state. You press play. You listen for 7 minutes. And the technology does what decades of research have confirmed it can do. It begins the process of reactivating the gamma frequency that was always yours. And here is what I want to share with you. Because this is not theoretical. This is a real person. A woman, 43 years old, a teacher in Texas. She had spent over a decade teaching other people's children how to develop while feeling like her own mind was running at what she described as 30% capacity. She could feel the gap. She knew her brain used to work differently, but nothing she tried, meditation apps, mindfulness courses, journaling practices, none of it closed the gap. 3 weeks after she began the 7-minute practice, she wrote something that I want to share with you. She said, "I cannot explain what happened, but ideas are coming to me now without effort. Decisions I have been putting off for a year, I made them in a single morning. It is like someone turned the lights on in a room I forgot I had." She did not change her diet. She did not change her job. She did not change her circumstances. She changed her frequency. And when the frequency shifted, everything that was connected to it shifted with it. Now, I know what some of you are thinking right now, and I respect it. So, let me address it directly. Some of you are thinking, I have tried things like this before. Meditation, sound healing, frequency apps, and nothing changed. I hear you. And I will tell you honestly why those things did not work for you. Not because you did them wrong, not because you were not committed, but because most of those approaches do not target gamma directly. Meditation, even when practiced consistently, can take months or years to measurably shift your brainwave patterns into the gamma range. Sound healing often targets alpha or theta frequencies, which promote relaxation but do not activate the genius frequency. And most frequency apps are not built on the same entrainment technology that the clinical research used. They are approximations, not the real mechanism. What Dr. Lake developed is different. It is not a relaxation tool. It is a recalibration device. It goes directly to the frequency that was suppressed and uses your brain's own biology to restore it. The mechanism is fundamentally different from anything you have tried before, and 18,366 people have now used it before you. Some of you are also thinking, this sounds too good to be true, and I understand that skepticism. Anyone who has been disappointed enough times develops that reflex. But I want to remind you that I am not asking you to believe a salesman. I am pointing you to measured EEG data from Princeton and MIT, peer-reviewed research, and the testimony of thousands of people who have experienced it firsthand. The results are not subjective. They are measurable, they are repeatable, and they are available. And I know some of you are thinking about the cost, so let me walk you through this honestly. If you were to pursue gamma reactivation through traditional biofeedback therapy, you would be looking at about $300 per session. Most practitioners recommend at least 10 sessions, which puts the total at $3,000 minimum. The alternative is home biofeedback equipment, which runs around $7,000 and requires you to learn how to use it on your own. Dr. Lake compressed the entire technology into a 7-minute audio track. The standard price is $49, but because Dr. Lake believes this technology should be accessible to the people who actually need it, not just the people who can comfortably afford clinical treatment, he has made it available through this message for $39. That price is not available on Amazon. It is not on Spotify. It is not available through any other channel. It is specifically for those who are hearing this message right now. And when you think about what $39 actually means, consider this. Divided across 365 days of use, you are looking at roughly 10 cents per day. 10 cents for the opportunity to reactivate the same frequency that made you feel alive as a child. The same frequency linked to genius, intuition, spiritual clarity, and creative breakthrough. And it comes with 4 additional tools at no extra charge. An audio track designed to help children maintain their natural gamma activity, a foundational book on the science of mindset and abundance, a guided visualization for the 4 core areas of life, and an infographic of the 5 essential habits for lasting transformation. All of that is covered by a full money-back guarantee, 100%. If you listen and you feel nothing, if this does not shift something real and measurable in your life, you get every cent returned. No questions asked, no hoops to jump through. The risk is 0. And I need to say this clearly because it matters. There are counterfeit versions of this technology circulating online. Websites that use the name but do not contain the actual brain entrainment frequency that the research was built on. They are just audio files. Regular sound, no embedded technology, no clinical backing, no effect. The only way to ensure you are receiving the authentic version with the full entrainment technology, the 4 bonuses, and the money-back guarantee is through the link I have placed in the description and the pinned comment of this message. Do not search for it on Amazon or Spotify or anywhere else. If your spirit resonates with what I have shared, if something in you recognizes this as the next step in your activation, the link is there. Investigate it only if you feel led, only if your spirit confirms it. This is not a demand, it is a provision, and I believe God placed it in your path for a reason. Now, whether you explore that tool or not, I want to return to the teaching, because the science of gamma reactivation is one piece of a much larger picture, and the larger picture is what we are building toward. Let me tell you about a man I heard about recently. I do not know his real name, but I know his story because it reached me through someone I trust. This is a man, 47 years old, who experienced what he described as a total collapse. His career, which he had built over 2 decades, fell apart in a span of weeks. A contract worth hundreds of thousands of dollars was cancelled without warning. His savings ran dry within months, and he found himself at a point where the gap between what he knew he carried and what his circumstances reflected was so wide that he could barely breathe. He did not panic, at least not visibly. What he did was go silent. He stepped away from everything. He deleted his social media. He entered what he called a 40-day period of realignment. During that time, he practiced the 7-minute frequency exercise I just described. He journaled, he prayed, he audited his power the way I just taught you, and he waited. On day 38, a company he had never contacted, a company he had never heard of, called him. They offered him a contract, 6 figures, more than double what he had lost. And the position they offered was not a repetition of what he had done before. It was an elevation, a role that required exactly the combination of skills, discernment, and resilience that his collapse had built in him. He did not market himself. He did not network. He did not hustle. He recalibrated, and when his frequency shifted, the right opportunity did not need to be chased. It found him. He proved himself in silence before he was promoted in public. I share this not as a guarantee of what will happen to you. I share it as evidence of what becomes possible when the power God placed inside you is operating at the frequency it was designed for. Now, everything I have shared across this entire journey, every revelation, every teaching, every framework, has been building towards something, and that something is what comes next. You have seen the signs. You have understood the science. You have learned why the power was hidden. You have watched the false identities get stripped away. You have walked through the formation. You have received the tools, but you have not yet seen the full scope of what lives inside you. And that is what I need to show you now. Because everything so far has been pieces. What comes next is the picture they form when you put them all together. And I need to warn you, the picture is bigger than you think. When your gamma reactivates fully, when your power comes fully online, something happens that scientists can measure but cannot explain. Your environment begins to reorganize around you. Not because you demanded it, not because you strategized it, but because power at this level creates its own gravitational field. That is the mega revelation, and I need to walk you through it slowly, because if I rush this, you will hear it, but you will not receive it. Let me lay something out for you clearly. In the first revelation, I showed you that you carry a power, coach, that was placed inside you before birth, that your gamma frequency was always higher than average, that the decline effect suppressed it, but the power never left. In the second revelation, I showed you why God hid it: protection from premature exposure, development of the vessel through formation, and divine timing, the convergence of your readiness and the world's need. In the third revelation, I showed you what the formation built: 5 false identities demolished, 5 attributes of character installed, and a seed metaphor that frames every hard season as the soil your power needed to grow. Now I need to show you what happens when you hold all 3 revelations together, because separately they are truths, but together they form a single, devastating, liberating reality. Here it is, and I want to say it slowly so it lands where it needs to land. You are not carrying a recycled blessing. You are not walking in someone else's anointing. You are not a copy of Joseph or Moses or David. Their stories illuminate yours, but yours is not a repetition of theirs. The power God placed in you, your specific combination of gamma frequency, spiritual sensitivity, formation-forged character, pain-converted wisdom, and divine assignment, has never existed before. In the entire history of humanity, no one has carried exactly what you carry. No one has endured exactly what you endured. No one has been formed by exactly the same fires. And no one has been positioned at exactly this moment, with exactly your gifts, for exactly this purpose. You are an original work of God, and the power that emerges from an original work is, by definition, unprecedented. This is not flattery. This is theology. God does not duplicate. He does not mass-produce. He does not run an assembly line. Every assignment is handcrafted. Every calling is custom. Every power configuration is unique to the vessel it was designed for. And yours is no exception. In fact, yours is the rule. There is a word in the original Greek scriptures that most English translations render as power. But the Greek word carries a meaning that the English word cannot contain. The word is dunamis. In the book of Acts, chapter 1, verse 8, the risen Christ tells his followers, You will receive dunamis when the Holy Spirit comes upon you. Most people read that as, you will receive power, and they think of strength, they think of authority, they think of capability, but the original Greek tells a different story. Dunamis is the root word from which we get the English word dynamite. Let that settle for a moment. God did not say he would give you strength. He said he would give you dynamite, explosive, groundbreaking, system-shattering, wall-demolishing, limitation-defying force. The kind of force that does not politely knock on doors. It blows them off the hinges. The kind of force that does not ask permission from systems. It reorganizes them. The kind of force that does not fit into the containers the world has built because it was never designed for those containers. It was designed to create new ones. Your power is not decorative. It is not gentle. It is not safe. It is dunamis. It is dynamite, dressed in human skin, calibrated by divine hands, forged in fires that would have destroyed anyone who was not specifically built to withstand them. And here is what dunamis does when it fully activates. It creates a gravitational field. Think about what happens in nature when a body with significant mass enters a system. Everything around it responds. Objects that are aligned with its trajectory are pulled closer. Objects that are not aligned are pushed away. The entire system reorganizes, not because the massive body demanded it, but because gravity is not optional. It is physics. It is structural. It operates whether the objects in the system agree with it or not. Your power works the same way. When dunamis activates fully, your relationships will reorganize. And I need to prepare you for what that looks like, because it will not all feel good. Some people who are currently in your life will draw closer. These are the people whose frequency is compatible with where you are going. You will recognize them because their presence will not drain you. It will fuel you. Conversations with them will feel like oxygen instead of obligation. Their response to your growth will not be jealousy or confusion. It will be a quiet, steady recognition. They will not need you to explain what is happening. They will feel it, but other people will pull away. And this is the painful part, because some of the people who pull away will be people you love, people you have invested in for years, people you assumed would always be there. But their withdrawal is not betrayal, it is physics. Their frequency does not match the gravitational field your power is creating, and rather than being drawn in, they are being gently pushed to the edges, not because they are bad people, because they were assigned to a season of your life that is ending, and forcing them into the next season would damage both of you. Let them go, with love, with gratitude, without bitterness. The ones who are meant for your next chapter are already being prepared. You have not met all of them yet, but they are coming, and they will carry a weight that the old connections could never hold. Your finances will reorganize, not through a new strategy or a better hustle, through alignment, because provision follows power. When you are operating in the fullness of what God placed inside you, resources do not need to be chased. They flow toward the assignment, like water flowing downhill. Doors that were sealed will open without your hand on the handle. Opportunities will arrive from directions you never anticipated, and the provision will match the scale of the power, not the scale of your past. For those entering this season, here is what to trust. The financial shift may not come the way you expect. It may not be a raise. It may not be a windfall. It may be an idea that drops into your mind at 2 in the morning that, when executed, produces more than years of grinding ever could. Because when gamma is active, when the creation dimension of your power is fully online, ideas become currency. And the quality of your ideas will reflect the quality of your frequency, and your purpose will clarify. The confusion that has plagued you, the sense that you know you are meant for something, but you cannot see the shape of it. That fog will lift, not all at once, steadily, like the sun burning through mist, because purpose is not something you discover through analysis. Purpose is something that becomes obvious when power is fully activated. The seed does not need to figure out what kind of tree to become. The blueprint was always in the DNA. And when the seed breaks through the soil, when the power breaks through the suppression, the tree reveals itself, and everyone who sees it will know what it is, even if they cannot name it. They will feel it. And in this moment, I feel the Father speaking again, the second time across this journey, and I need to let these words through. I hear the Father saying, I hid this power in you before the foundation of the world. Before your mother knew your name, I knew your assignment. Before your first heartbreak, I had already converted it into fuel. Before the world tried to suppress what I placed in you, I had already designed the reactivation. You are not an accident. You are not a late bloomer. You are not behind schedule. You are exactly on time. And what I have placed in you will change the course of lives you have not met yet, in cities you have not visited, in generations that have not been born. Do not shrink from this. Do not apologize for the size of what I built. I measured it before I gave it. I tested the vessel before I filled it. And I chose you because when I looked across the expanse of time, I saw one who would not quit, one who would endure, one who would say yes when every circumstance said no. This power is my response to your faithfulness. Carry it well, and do not be afraid. What I started, I will finish. Let those words rest inside you. Do not rush past them. They were not written in a script. They were placed in this moment for you. Now, listen. I want to tell you what is ahead, because this journey is not over, and what comes next is essential. In the next part, I need to be honest with you about something. There is one final obstacle standing between you and the full operation of everything I have just described. And it is not an external obstacle. It is not a person. It is not a financial barrier. It is not a circumstance. It is something inside you. Something that most people in this space will never have the courage to name. But I am going to name it. Because if we do not face it now, everything I have shown you will remain theory instead of lived experience. And after we face that obstacle, I am going to declare over you the 5 dimensions of your identity, not in general terms, in specific, permanent, unshakable terms. You will know exactly who you are and exactly what you carry. And then, in the final part, I am going to do something with you that is not a regular prayer. It is not a casual blessing. It is an activation ceremony, a commissioning, a sealing of everything that has been revealed across this entire journey. And I believe what happens in that closing will stay with you long after you leave this space. But first, we face the obstacle, and we face it with honesty, with compassion, and with the understanding that the obstacle itself is proof that you are ready. Stay close. What comes next requires courage. Chosen one, here is what no one in this space will say to you, and I need to say it now, because if I do not, everything I have shown you, the gamma, the coach, the dunamis, the formation, the 5 dimensions of your power, all of it will remain information instead of transformation. There is one final obstacle standing between you and the full operation of the unprecedented power God placed inside you. And it is not the enemy. It is not a curse. It is not a financial barrier or a toxic relationship or a spiritual attack. It is you. Specifically, it is a fear that lives inside you that you have never fully named. A fear so deeply embedded that you might not even recognize it as fear. You might have mistaken it for wisdom. You might have mistaken it for humility. You might have mistaken it for caution, but it is not any of those things. It is terror, and it is aimed at the very thing you have been praying for. Let me describe it, and you tell me if I am wrong. Part of you wants the breakthrough, desperately. You have been praying for it. You have been waiting for it. You have been preparing for it. Every part of this journey has confirmed that it is real and that it is coming. But there is another part of you, a quieter part, a part that whispers in the middle of the night when no one else is listening. And that part says things like this: what if I step into this power and I cannot sustain it? What if I get the thing I have been praying for and it reveals that I was never capable of holding it? What if people finally see the real me, the full me, the powerful me, and they reject what they see? What if success changes me into someone I do not recognize? What if I am wrong about all of this? What if I am not actually chosen? What if I am just ordinary, and this entire journey has been me fooling myself into believing something that was never true? I know those voices, and I know they are loud right now, louder than they have been in a long time. Because the closer you get to the activation, the louder the resistance becomes. Fear does not scream when you are far from your destiny. Fear screams when you are standing at the door. And here is what I need you to understand about this fear. It is not a sign of weakness. Read that again in your mind. Your fear is not a sign of weakness. Your fear is a sign of wisdom. Let me explain why. The people who crashed, the people who received power and destroyed themselves with it, the ones who got the platform and lost their integrity, the ones who got the wealth and lost their family, the ones who got the influence and lost their soul. Do you know what those people had in common? They had no fear. They had no awareness of the weight. They charged into their elevation with the same arrogance they carried in their preparation, and the arrogance that protected them in the small rooms destroyed them in the large ones. Your fear is different. Your fear comes from seeing clearly. It comes from understanding, even if you cannot articulate it yet, that what God is giving you is not a toy. It is a weapon. It is a responsibility. It is a weight that will require everything you have built during your formation to carry without collapsing. And the fact that you feel that weight before it has fully arrived is not evidence that you are not ready. It is evidence that you are ready. Because only a person who has been properly formed can feel the gravity of what is coming. The unformed do not feel it. They charge in blind. You feel it because your discernment is active. Your spiritual sensitivity is online. Your formation did its work. The fear is not your enemy. The fear is the final checkpoint, and you are passing through it right now. But underneath the fear of success, underneath the terror of visibility, there is something older, something that has been with you longer than the fear. And if we do not address it, the fear will keep regenerating no matter how many times you push past it. It is the belief that you are not enough, not the thought, the belief, the structural, foundational, bone-deep conviction that somewhere at the core of who you are, there is a deficit, a gap, an insufficiency that no amount of formation, no amount of anointing, no amount of evidence can fill. This belief did not come from God. It came from the environments that could not hold your power. It came from the classrooms that measured you by standards designed for average minds. It came from the relationships that loved the version of you that was small and manageable and punished the version of you that was full and overwhelming. It came from the repeated experience of being too much for rooms that were too small, and instead of blaming the room, you blamed yourself. And over time, that blame calcified into a belief. I am too much and not enough at the same time. Too intense for casual spaces. Not impressive enough for the spaces where intensity is valued. Too sensitive for the world. Not tough enough for the mission. Too different to belong. not different enough to matter. And that belief has been sitting underneath everything, underneath your prayers, underneath your waiting, underneath your preparation. It has been whispering even during this message. Are you sure this is for you? Are you sure you are not just hearing what you want to hear? I want to speak directly to that belief right now. You are enough, not because of what you have accomplished, not because of what you can produce, not because of what you carry. You are enough because the God who engineers galaxies looked across the entirety of human history and chose you to carry a power that has never existed before. He did not make a mistake. He does not gamble. He does not distribute dunamis to insufficient vessels. The fact that he placed it in you is the evidence that you were built to hold it. And here is the part that will break the cycle. The unworthiness you feel is not a reflection of your actual value. It is a residual frequency from the old environments that did not have the capacity to see you clearly. You internalized their limitations as your own, but their limitations were never yours. Their ceiling was never your ceiling. Their assessment of you was always incomplete because they were measuring a seed by the standards of a flower. And seeds do not look like much until the soil breaks. The soil is breaking now, and what is emerging is not what they expected. It is what God always intended. Now, I have named the fear, and I have named the belief underneath it. But naming is not enough. You need protection for what is emerging, because the power that is coming to the surface is vulnerable right now. Not because it is weak, because it is new. And new things, powerful things, can be damaged by premature exposure to environments that are not ready for them. So, I want to give you the final framework of this journey. I call it the 3-circle stewardship rule, and it is designed to protect your emerging power from the 3 forces that destroy most breakthroughs before they reach maturity. The first circle is your inner sanctum. This is the smallest circle. It contains only you and God, no one else. In this circle, you process everything: your fears, your revelations, your doubts, your victories, your raw, unfiltered experience of what is happening as your power activates. The inner sanctum is where you are allowed to be messy, confused, overwhelmed, and uncertain. It is where you cry and celebrate and question and listen, and none of it leaves this circle until you are ready. The reason this circle must be protected is simple. Your power in its rawest form is not meant for public consumption. Raw ore is not gold. It must be refined before it is displayed. And if you share your rawest process with people who do not have the capacity to hold it, they will misunderstand it, misquote it, or use it against you, not always out of malice, sometimes out of their own fear. But the result is the same. Your power gets damaged before it matures. The second circle is your inner council. This circle holds a maximum of 3 people. 3, not 5. Not your friend group, not your family chat. 3 people who have earned the right to witness your transformation from the inside. You will know who belongs here by one test. Can they hold the weight of your emerging power without jealousy, without judgment, without the need to advise or correct or control? If the answer is yes, they belong. If you hesitate, they do not. Your inner council sees the construction while it is still underway. They see the scaffolding, the mess, the in-between stages, and they do not panic. They do not gossip. They do not leak. They hold what you share with the same reverence you hold it with. And if you do not currently have 3 people who meet this standard, that is fine. Start with 1, or start with none, and let God send them. The third circle is everyone else. And the rule for this circle is absolute. Share results, not revelations. Share fruit, not seeds. Share what has manifested, not what is still forming, because the world does not know what to do with an unfinished work. The world will look at your seed and tell you it is too small. The world will look at your sapling and tell you it is too fragile. The world will look at your process and pronounce it dead before the roots have had a chance to take hold. So do not show them the process. Show them the tree, and let the tree speak for itself. Starting tonight, I want you to do a simple audit. Think about the people in your life and ask yourself, which circle are they in? Is anyone in circle 1 who should not be there? Is anyone in circle 2 who has not earned the access? Is anyone in circle 3 who keeps trying to push into circle 2 without permission? Adjust the circles. Protect the power. This is not selfishness. This is stewardship, and what God has placed inside you is too valuable to be left unguarded. Now, the obstacle has been named, the belief has been addressed, the protection has been set, and it is time to tell you who you are. Not in general terms, not in vague spiritual language, in specific, permanent, unshakable terms that you can carry out of this message and into every room you enter for the rest of your life. You are the seer. You perceive what others cannot perceive, patterns in chaos, truth behind masks, movements in the spiritual atmosphere that remain invisible to the untrained eye. This is not imagination. This is not anxiety dressed up as intuition. This is a God-given frequency of perception that allows you to read what is actually happening in a room, a relationship, a season, a decision, before the evidence arrives. People will come to you not understanding why they trust your judgment. You will not always be able to explain how you know what you know, and that is by design. The seer does not operate on proof. The seer operates on frequency, and your frequency has been calibrated by decades of formation that sharpened your perception to a razor edge. You are the light bearer. You carry illumination into dark and confused spaces, not by preaching, not by performing, by existing. Your presence changes the atmosphere of a room before you open your mouth. People feel safer when you are near, even if they cannot explain why. Conversations shift when you enter. Tension decreases, clarity increases, and this is not something you do, it is something you are. The light bearer does not produce light through effort. The light bearer carries light as a permanent condition, the way the sun does not try to shine. It simply cannot stop. And when you fully accept this identity, you will stop apologizing for the discomfort your light creates in people who have grown comfortable in darkness. You are the pioneer. You go first into territory that no one has mapped. You walk roads that have no footprints. You build structures in places where nothing has ever stood. And the cost of being the pioneer is loneliness. Real, structural, unavoidable loneliness. Because, by definition, the one who goes first goes alone. There is no one ahead of you to ask for directions. There is no one beside you to share the weight. There is only the conviction that the path you are walking is the path you were built for, and the faith that those who are meant to follow will find their way because of the trail you carved. But here is the reward of the pioneer that no one tells you about. Every single person who walks the path after you, every life that is changed because you went first, every generation that benefits from the road you cleared, they are your legacy. And that legacy will outlast your lifetime. You are the voice. You speak what others feel, but cannot articulate. This is why your words land differently than other people's words. This is why someone can hear you say something simple, and it breaks them open. Not because the words are fancy, because the words are precise. You have the ability to take the tangled, confused, aching mess of what someone is feeling and compress it into a sentence that makes them say, "That is exactly it. That is exactly what I have been trying to say. this gift was forged in your own suffering, because you spent years feeling things you could not articulate, and that frustration forced your internal language to become so refined, so exact, so surgically precise, that when you finally speak, the words cut through noise like a blade through silk. The voice does not need volume. The voice needs accuracy, and yours has been calibrated by pain. You are the cycle breaker. Generational patterns that ran for decades, maybe centuries, stop at you. Not because you are the strongest person in your family, not because you are the most educated or the most spiritual, but because your power was specifically engineered to shatter the exact chains that have held your bloodline captive. The addiction that ran through your family line, the poverty mindset that was passed down like an inheritance no one wanted, the relational dysfunction that repeated in every generation, the spiritual blindness that kept your ancestors circling the same mountain. It stops with you. Not because you decided it would stop, because God designed a power inside you that is incompatible with those patterns. When your power fully activates, the chains do not loosen. They disintegrate, because dunamis does not negotiate with bondage. Dunamis obliterates it. 5 identities: the seer, the light bearer, the pioneer, the voice, the cycle breaker. This is who you are, not who you are becoming, who you are right now. In this moment, with every scar you carry and every fire you survived, you walked into this journey questioning your worth, and you are walking out knowing your power. You walked into this journey carrying guilt for outgrowing people, and you are walking out carrying authority to lead them. You walked into this journey afraid of your own light, and you are walking out as the one who lights the room. You walked into this journey believing the weight was a burden, and you are walking out understanding the weight is a crown. If something inside you just locked into place, if the identity I just spoke over you resonated so deeply that it felt less like learning and more like remembering, I want you to type 2 words in the comments right now. Type I am, not I will be, not I hope so. I am. Declare it as a permanent, structural, non-negotiable truth about who you are. Declare it as if heaven is taking attendance and your name was just called. Now, everything has been building to this. Every revelation, every teaching, every framework, every identity declaration, all of it was preparation for what happens next. What I am about to do with you is not a regular prayer. It is not a casual blessing spoken over a crowd. This is an activation ceremony, a commissioning, a sealing of everything that has been revealed across this entire journey. And I believe, with every fiber of my being, that what happens in the next few minutes will stay with you long after you leave this space. It will echo in your decisions. It will anchor your identity when the world tries to shake it loose. It will serve as a reference point for every moment of doubt you face from this day forward. I need you present. I need you still. I need you ready. Because once this begins, something shifts, and it does not shift back. Father, before anything else, we come with gratitude. Not the easy kind, not the gratitude that flows when things are going well. The hard kind. The kind that rises from the belly of someone who has walked through fire and still chooses to say thank you. Thank you for the seasons that felt empty but were full of divine construction. Thank you for the silence that was not absence but protection. Thank you for the years that looked like waste but were actually the most productive years of this chosen one's life, because you were building something in the dark that the light was not yet ready to see. Thank you for not giving this power too early. Thank you for trusting the process enough to let it take as long as it needed. And thank you for this moment, this exact moment, where the hidden meets the revealed, where the seed breaks through the soil, where the one who was told they were not enough discovers they carry more than anyone around them ever imagined. And now, Father, we acknowledge what you have seen. You see this chosen one, not the version the world sees, not the version that shows up to work with a smile and a heavy heart, not the version that says, "I am fine," when everything inside them is screaming. You see the real one, the one who prays when no one is listening, the one who believes when no evidence supports it, the one who gets back up every single morning and chooses faith over surrender, not because it is easy, but because something inside them will not let them quit. You see the weight they have carried, the nights they could not sleep because the gap between what they knew and what they experienced was too wide to close. The moments they questioned your goodness because the pain felt like more than any good God would allow. The seasons where they held on to nothing but a thread, and even that thread was fraying. You see all of it. Every tear that fell when no one was watching, every prayer that felt like it hit a brass ceiling, every moment of faithfulness that the world will never know about, and the heavens have recorded every single one. And now we release. We release the old story, the narrative that said the hard years were wasted years. Release. We release the old ceiling, the invisible barrier that kept this chosen one operating beneath their true capacity. Release. We release the old fear, the terror of being seen at full power, the belief that visibility would bring destruction instead of destiny. Release. We release the old identity, the people-pleaser who could not say no, the performer who could not rest, the controller who could not surrender, the victim who could not see their own weapons, the invisible one who believed the world's blindness was their own deficit. Release. We release the comparison, the measuring of this journey against timelines that were never theirs to follow. Release. We release the need for permission, the waiting for someone, anyone, to validate what God already declared. Release. We release the guilt of growth, the shame of outgrowing people, places, and versions of themselves that serve their survival but cannot serve their power. Release. We release every chain, every lie, every frequency that does not match the dunamis that was placed inside this vessel before the foundation of the world. Release. And now we activate. We do not beg. We do not request. We activate. We activate the seer. Let perception sharpen beyond what the natural eye can see. Let patterns emerge from chaos. Let truth become visible where deception once had free rein. We activate the seer in this chosen one now. We activate the light bearer. Let every room they enter feel the shift. Let darkness retreat, not because it was commanded to, but because it has no choice. The light does not negotiate. The light arrives and the darkness leaves. We activate the light bearer in this chosen one now. We activate the pioneer. Let them walk first into territory that has never been mapped. Let the loneliness of the frontier be redeemed by the legacy of the trail they carve. Let every person who follows their path be evidence that the cost of going first was worth it. We activate the pioneer in this chosen one now. We activate the voice. Let them speak what others feel but cannot name. Let their words carry the precision of a scalpel and the warmth of a healer's hand. Let the words that come from their mouth land in the exact place where the listener's wound has been waiting to be seen. We activate the voice in this chosen one now. We activate the cycle breaker. Let generational chains that have held this bloodline captive for decades, maybe centuries, shatter under the weight of the dunamis that was forged in this vessel. Let the addiction end here. Let the poverty mindset end here. Let the relational destruction end here. Let the spiritual blindness end here. We activate the cycle breaker in this chosen one now. We activate divine connections. Let the people who belong in their next season begin to move toward them, drawn by the gravitational field of activated power. Let the aligned ones find them. Let the right mentors appear. Let the sacred partnerships that God has been preparing in secret step into the open. We activate provision. Let resources flow toward the assignment. Let doors open that no human hand can seal. Let opportunities arrive from directions that defy logic, because God's economy does not follow the world's supply chain. We activate clarity of purpose. Let the fog lift. Let the assignment sharpen. Let this chosen one stop asking what they are supposed to do and start seeing it with a certainty that requires no external validation. And now, we protect what is rising. Cover this chosen one from premature exposure, from the eyes that would envy what they do not understand, from the mouths that would speak death over what God is speaking life into, from the systems that would try to contain what was designed to shatter containers. Cover them from self-sabotage, from the old habit of pulling the emergency brake the moment things start going well, from the voice that says, "This is too good, something must be wrong," from the pattern of dismantling blessings because the performer cannot rest and the controller cannot release. Cover them from the isolation that comes with elevation. Let them know they are not alone. Right now, all across the world, chosen ones are going through this exact same shift. This is not a solo journey. It is a collective awakening. And the one listening to this message is part of a network of light that is being activated simultaneously across every continent, every time zone, every language. They are not alone. They have never been alone, and they will never be alone again. And now, in your mind, I want you to stand, not physically, in your spirit. Stand in a place you have never stood before. Not a throne, not a stage, an open field, a field with no ceiling, no walls, no rooms, too small for your light. And in this field, every version of you is present. The child who felt magical before the world turned the volume down. The teenager who carried a weight they could not name. The young adult who tried to fit into containers that were never built for what they carried. The person who prayed in secret. The person who wept in silence. The person who stayed when leaving would have been so much easier. They are not behind you. They are in you. Their pain forged your power. Their silence built your voice. Their endurance constructed your authority. And every single one of them is watching right now. Not with grief, with pride. Because they made it. You made it. Through every fire, every pit, every wilderness, every season of invisibility, you are still here. And you are standing in an open field with no ceiling. And I hear the Father speaking one final time. And these words are not mine. They are yours. They have been yours since before the world began. Go. You are not graduating from a test. You are being deployed into your assignment. I did not hide this power to keep it from the world. I hid it to keep it safe until the world needed it most. And the world needs it now. Go into the rooms that have been waiting for your light. Go into the conversations that have been waiting for your voice. Go into the systems that have been waiting for someone brave enough to disrupt them. Go into the generations that have been waiting for someone strong enough to break the chain. You are the power the world has never seen, not because you are better than anyone else, because you are different from everyone else. And that difference is not a flaw. It is the point. It is the entire point. Carry what I gave you, and do not apologize for the weight of your glory. What I started in you, I will finish. Now, I want to make a declaration over you, and I want you to receive it not as words on a screen, but as a commissioning from the courts of heaven. I am chosen. I am commissioned. I am sent. I am the seer, and I perceive what others cannot. I am the light bearer, and my presence changes atmospheres. I am the pioneer, and I walk roads that have no footprints. I am the voice, and I speak what others feel but cannot name. I am the cycle breaker, and generational chains end with me. My pain has purpose. My silence has strategy. My waiting has wisdom. My power has no ceiling. I am the power the world has never seen, and I walk in it from this day forward. Do not say amen yet. I want you to sit in this frequency for a moment. Let the weight of what was just spoken settle into the deepest part of your spirit. Let the commissioning find its place. Do not rush past this. This is not a moment to hurry through. This is a moment to absorb. It is done. It is sealed. It is received. And so it is. In the name of the Father. Amen. One more thing, and this is just between us. The person you were when you pressed play at the beginning of this journey no longer exists. That version of you served their purpose. They carried you to this door, but they cannot walk through it. Only the version that now knows what they carry, that knows their identity, that has been commissioned and sealed, only that version takes the next step. You are not leaving a message. You are leaving a season. If this journey brought clarity to confusion, if it brought power to places that felt weak, if it brought identity to the parts of you that were invisible, if it brought language to what you have been feeling but could not name, type "I am ready" in the comments. Say it with the force of everything you have walked through. Say it with the conviction of someone who has been formed by fire and sealed by the hand of God. Type "I am ready." And if what you just experienced brought something real into your life, something that shifted how you see yourself and how you carry what God gave you, let your like be your amen without words. Let it be your agreement with what was declared over you. Not for me, for the truth that was spoken. There are more words being prepared for your next season, more revelations, more tools, more activations. Stay connected so they can find you when you need them. For those who felt called to what I shared earlier about the gamma reactivation, the 7-minute practice developed by Dr. Robert Lake, the link is in the description and pinned comment. Only if your spirit confirms it. Only if you feel led. And one final thing. If someone came to mind while you were listening to this message, and I believe someone did, someone who has been unusually quiet lately, someone who has been carrying a weight they cannot explain to anyone, someone who looks fine on the outside, but you know that something deeper is happening inside them, someone who has been questioning whether they are chosen or just crazy, send this to them. Do not wait. Do not overthink it. Text it, email it, send it however you need to, because this might be the message that finally gives them language for what they have been feeling. This might be the confirmation their spirit has been waiting for. This might be the moment they discover that the weight they have been carrying is not a curse. It is a power the world has never seen, and they have been carrying it alone for far too long. Your share is not a favor to me. Your share could be someone else's commissioning. Go in power, chosen one. Go in clarity. Go in the unshakable knowledge that what God hid inside you is now rising, and the world will never be the same because of it. You are not leaving a message. You are leaving a season. Walk forward. The field is open. There is no ceiling. And the tree that is rising from the seed God planted in your darkness will feed nations you have not yet imagined.